Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Yehuda Friedman, and today's segment of OU Today, we have a fantastic conversation with Levin, Executive Director of Beth Jacob Congregation of San Diego, California, and Camille Wenner, Executive Director of Schara Tzedeck Congregation in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So, Camille and Rand, are you there?
Hi, Yehuda.
All right, welcome to the show. Okay, wow, I love both backdrops, but certainly, Rand, actually coming from your shul, and unfortunately, no one is there right now. But hopefully, in the coming weeks, our congregation should be filled. But I should really want to thank you both for coming on to the show. So please, actually, Camille, why don't you start? Tell us more about yourself, your background, actually the community out in actually Vancouver.
Hi, so I'm here in Canada, cold Canada, not really. We're in warm summer temperatures here in Vancouver. I have a background in event planning. I started working with Schara Tzedeck over 10 years ago in a role of event assistant, and in and out, moving back and forth to and from Vancouver. 7 years later, I ended up back here as executive director with some experience in fundraising with the Weizmann Institute in Israel. And now, we're here. We're in uncharted territories, using all of my event planning skills to try and, sort of fashion our way to success. So, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Rand, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Yehuda. I'm Rand Levin. I come from a background in television news journalism. Big change from journalism to shul management. But bottom line, here I am working for a shul since 2013. Started off as the shul administrator, and back in 2017 was given a title upgrade to executive director, and really just helping the community grow and helping the rabbis and supporting the institution as much as I can.
And also at the same time, if I could add to your shul resume, you also served as the shul president. So you could also see through multiple lenses as well.
True that. Yes.
Yeah. So we could just jump right in. Actually, how are your communities managing during this COVID pandemic?
So here in Vancouver, our community has really come together. The Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver has kind of spearheaded the coalition of all the organizations, from synagogues to day schools to seniors alliances, and we're all working together. We have Zoom calls weekly discussing what every organization is doing, what's working, what's not working, what resources we need. So, I really have to thank the Federation for really kind of being the trunk of the tree, and all of us, hanging on and trying to come to, successful way of navigating these stressful times. Here in Vancouver, early March, right before Purim, the discussion started about what we should do, whether shuls should close. We here decided to go ahead with Purim, and we are very thankful that there was no community spreads from any of the events that happened. But quickly we saw what was happening in the United States and made a cohesive decision between all of the synagogues actually in the city to shortly, I would say by the middle of March, to all temporarily close our services in our buildings for the foreseeable future. So now we're 9 weeks later, and the discussions are starting about if and when we can reopen. What is that going to look like? Who's going to be able to come into the building? How are our staff going to be safe? So there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of changes happening right now.
And Rand, you're speaking to us from an empty building. Actually, how has the San Diego community been impacted by the COVID pandemic?
I'll tell you, it's a very similar situation that Camille describes. We also started early in this process. We decided to have our big Purim Masiba here. It was over 300 people together in a room, and also Baruch Hashem, no infections came out of that meeting. We had already started to make changes with regards to Kiddush and no kissing mezuzahs. You remember in those early days, 8-9 weeks ago. But then right after Purim, we saw that the Los Angeles shuls, many of the shuls there had decided to close. And once our local schools had made the decision all that they were going to be closing the next week, that week, and I think it was March 14th, that Shabbos, we were closed. There was initial resistance to closing. People did not want to close right away. We didn't know what we were dealing with back then, and we wanted to be very careful. So we did close. And how are we doing now, many weeks later? Obviously, we're doing a lot of online activities. We had to transition our shul from a brick and mortar operation to a virtual operation, which is really what's happening all over the country and all over North America, I'm sure. And now 8-9 weeks later, I'm sensing Zoom fatigue. I think that's happening. This kind of interaction maybe works on a meeting basis, and we can talk about what's going to come, in the future, the good things that might come out of this. I think, if I may say so right now, we already had we had a board meeting via Zoom. It was the best board meeting we ever had. Most participatory and nobody talking over each other. It was very controlled. It was actually, we got a lot done, and I think that's kind of the positive twist. Committee meetings, organizing meetings happening in this format are good. But long-term davening on Zoom and classes, I think there's a way to incorporate that. We don't have to get rid of it completely once we come back, God willing, full bore. And I think there will be a place for this kind of interaction in the future, and that's a good thing that might come out of this.
And also at the same time, the impacts also hit the bottom line. So, can you share if there has been actually financial impacts to your synagogue, to your community? What has that done? That's the finances.
So for us here at Schara Tzedeck, we're always very conservative in our budget. We always assume that there could be ups and downs year to year. Some years we have, larger events, more bar and bat mitzvahs, more rental income. So, there's always a variability, and we really make sure that, we always have reserve and that we're careful in that sense. So, of course we've been hit. We're not going out and asking our members to, come up with the money to pay their outstanding dues right now. That's usually at this time of year, we're, gearing up to high holidays coming. That's when people start to pay their dues and, so that they can get their tickets for high holidays. And that's not something that's going to be in the books. We don't feel that that's appropriate. So, in the coming months, we may see some variability in that. We also had a fundraiser. Our gala is supposed to be at the end of this month, and that will look different as well. But, what's most important to us is that we really wanted to maintain our staff, that everyone felt secure and that they had a position here still, whether that be different, whether it be virtual, if they're, we're doing some youth programming where our youth director is now packaging 150 bags every week, and volunteers send Shabbat in a bag for kids club to people's houses. So, in one sense, areas of our budget where we would have spent here in the shul on food and that sort of thing, now it's going to different areas. And we're doing a large program for our seniors where we feed 150 members of the community Shabbat meal every week. We have about 20-30 drivers who send them across the city. This week it was Mother's Day, so we sent little bouquets of flowers in it. And that initiative has been heavily, heavily supported by our community members. People have been behind it. They've been making donations. They make donations in honor of someone to ask to please send to them because they know that they're having a hard time or they've lost their job. So, it's kind of a bit both ways. Of course, we see it. We see that the projected impact is probably going to be greater than what we would have anticipated or, wanted it in, end of June of 2020. But, we're moving forward and we're being fiscally conservative and very careful with, how we're maintaining things in the shul. And, people talked about whether or not you're keeping your fridges operating and your heating and your HVAC and that sort of thing. And I'm glad to say we don't have HVAC in our office, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I think that we will see the impacts in the next 6 months for sure. Can't say for certain what that looks like. Here in Canada, there is a lot of opportunity for government funding. So we're looking into that to see if we qualify. But yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty.
And Rand, how's it impacting you and your synagogue?
So right off the bat, our executive committee wanted to also have me go throughout the entire building, shut down as much as possible. All of our automatic lights, our timers, I reset them to 0, so to speak. HVAC has been off for weeks. Refrigerators are still going. They're kind of old refrigerators. We were a little afraid that if we turned them off, we didn't know if they would turn back on again. So those remained on. And we have had some kitchen operations. You talk about food deliveries. We're still, in terms of chesed, that's also been a good impact of this outbreak. That there's, right before Pesach, that was a really tough time for people who were going to be alone. So we did facilitate shopping and deliveries, and that was a really beautiful thing that we saw the community come together on. In terms of finances for the shul, right off the bat, once the office was closed, I did reduce hours for one of our employees, and then we ended up furloughing her for a month. At the same time, and almost concurrently, we did apply for the payroll protection plan, and we were successful. We did get that, and then we brought back the furloughed employee. And we want to be able to keep that level of operations as long as possible. So this is a fantastic cushion to be able to use. And I think it was an appropriate thing to do to apply for that. Our revenue sources, we can talk about this a little bit later. We have a kind of a different revenue model here. We rely heavily on rentals on our property. The people who built this shul were forward thinking and built apartments on the property as well. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 apartments. We have 50 apartments on the facility. It's over a 3-acre campus with a shul and 2 apartment buildings. That's half my job is managing our revenue sources. And I feel it's really important, and this is a good idea for any shuls to create other revenue sources besides dues and donations. And it's not easy to start a business on the side like that, but if you can think creatively about finding other ways to bring in resources, that's really important. And that's how we're surviving right now. But I should say, we can't assume that the rental market is going to stay okay right now. There are people losing their jobs. The impact, like Camille said, could be 4, 6, 10 months out when we realize somebody can't keep their apartment because they haven't been able to keep up. Their government help has run out. So again, looking forward, we're being cautious also on a budgetary standpoint. Just because we're saving money, let's say, on security guards right now, we're not paying for security guards now. So we're saving some money there. We're saving money on utilities right now. But that doesn't mean we should go out and spend all the extra revenue that we have right now, because we do need kind of a rainy day fund.
So Camille, as you were saying before about mitigating risk and being conservative, actually fiscally conservative, I would say actually a question for both of you. Thankfully, Rand, the shul has apartments. Camille, the synagogue has been fiscally conservative. What are for the synagogues and nonprofits that are watching? What steps should they be taking right now? Obviously they can't buy 50 apartments, but are there any immediate steps that they can take? Actually looking to forecast that for the next year or so.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rand. Go ahead.
Just another avenue that I think is really important, especially for a mature institution who's been around for a while, such as ours. And I'm not sure about Camille Shul, how long they've been around and the length of membership and how long they have, but legacy. You're going to have people in your institution who currently may not be able to give because of financial reasons. There's been a downturn clearly. But when people decide, again, this is very long-term planning, but it can be very helpful. God forbid you have you rely heavily on one or two big donors and they don't have the money for whatever reason, either they job or loss of life. I mean, there are all kinds of chas v'chalila things that happen. But in terms of long-term, imagine if you've got 10, 20, 30 families who have consistently over the years been leaving money to the shul through a legacy plan. That becomes, I know one shul in town here, not an Orthodox shul, they have $3 million of an endowment fund that they can draw on to help pay salaries, to help pay expenses, so that you're not relying on one donor. That becomes your big donor. And it's a pool of money that's come over time because of goodwill that you've built with your institution and your community. And they want to give back. They want to leave 1%, 2% to your institution because it really means something to them. And to see that it continues going forward. So I'm working on a plan right now, also with our local Jewish Community Foundation, on how to market a legacy plan in this environment. It's not easy because people are thinking, oh, there's no money. I have to be very cautious. It's way down the line when you don't have to worry about it. And that can be really helpful for an institution. Our apartments are really that in a nutshell. They're an endowment. We're able to pay current expenses based on someone thinking about the shul a long time ago.
Camille?
Yeah, so I agree with Rand. We have a well-established endowment fund here at Schara Tzedeck. We are a 113-year-old shul, and so we have a lot of legacy here. Our endowment fund is made up of donors who have consistently given for years. Maybe little amounts every year, and we have some other funds which are invested. That in emergency situations, could, I guess, be called upon if there was another pandemic, God forbid. But I think the endowment is a great way to start if a shul doesn't yet have one. I also think that looking forward into the next six to 12 months, I think we have to be really honest with our congregation. And with our community and ask for help if we need it, and explain to them why it's important what we're doing, what we see ourselves doing in the next 6 to 12 months, create a concrete plan that's well organized and clear, not just assuming that everyone knows what's going on behind the scenes and what it takes to make a shul continue to run. I mean, we have 40 classes a week running by Zoom right now. Someone needs to moderate, to give the class. Our meal food programs, some people don't know that exists, that's available to them. So making sure that, maybe, you up your marketing a little bit, put a little bit into showing people what the shul has to offer, and also calling on volunteers. I think that's an amazing way of getting people connected to the shul, finding out what's going on. One person starts doing it, they tell their friends. We have a whole group of university students who can't get jobs for the summer because there are no jobs to be had right now. No one knows if restaurants are going to open or if swimming pools where they were lifeguards are going to be open. And so they're coming week after week to help us deliver food. And I think just, calling on your community, asking for help, and making everyone feel like, we need you as much as they need us,
Wow. It's important, even though we are far apart, we're very much together, and people are looking for something that's greater than themselves. And certainly there's been a tremendous amount of outpouring of volunteer activities where people want to step up, and they feel that they are connected to the communities that way. So those types of experiences are tremendously powerful. Before we close, I want to know if there's any closing comments. So, if either of you.
It's been a challenging time, and it's at these times where I realize really how important a shul is, actually. And it's not the physical structure that makes a shul, but it's the people that make a shul. And it really is a community. And you find out at the hardest times when people are there for you. And we're just trying to be a facilitator in this environment. We're trying to help wherever we can. The employee that is now back looking for work, we're trying to find her stuff to do, because obviously we don't have customers coming in and out, constituents coming in and out. So we're reaching out, we're calling, we're going through our entire phone list. We're emailing, we're texting, we're marketing, as Camille said. We have to be loud and appropriate. And what I mean loud is that we just have to be always on everybody's mind so that they know we are here for them. And again, we're just connectors. We're just trying to help people.
You're very well said. And Camille, any closing comments?
I think, what I hope to look back on, in a year or 2 years from now, when we're, doing something different at the shul, and, our bar and bat mitzvahs are back up and running, and the simchas are flowing. And I want to look back and say that this time in history, created an impact to help us improve. I think one light that's really been opened in my eyes is that the senior community, probably everywhere, but specifically our community here, is very isolated. It's kind of opened my eyes to realize that it's not just COVID. These individuals, these members, are often by themselves. They often don't have a meal to share with someone else on a weekly basis. And now more than ever, that we need to be there as a community to help people. I have really, really enjoyed the connection that all of the executive directors have made. We're constantly, daily, everyone's going back and forth, helping each other, coming up with ideas on how to stay engaged, and what's going to happen for Shavuot. How are we going to get people to have that sense of community? And I'm really, really proud of the Jewish community across North America. I've been blown away by the support from donors, the support from colleagues, from our rabbis, from the OU, who are just, every day there's something new that you can be a part of. I think what I'll look back on this is that I'm really proud of being a part of this community.
Well,
Hear, hear.
Well said. Yeah. Well, Camille and Rand, I really want to thank you for your time, insight. I know it's long days, long nights, but at the end of the day, we're doing incredible work you guys are doing incredible work for the Jewish community. So really, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll all be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks.